Saludos and welcome today to another great day of learning on the PGP podcast. Hey, Josh Tobat, Pro Principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, ISD, Garland, USA. Welcoming everybody to our last show of this year. We want to thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Muchas gracias por estar aquí hoy. Les damos las gracias a todos porque pueden estar en otro lugar, pero están aquí con nosotros. You could be somewhere else, but you're here with us. And let me tell you, there are tons of podcasts out there. Trust me, I listen to a bunch of those. And you know what? That you're giving some of your time, whether it be today on Sunday or on the rebroadcast on our YouTube channel at Josh Tawad. We want to thank you. Those 12 people that I see already logging in, thank you very much. You could be somewhere else, but you're here. We thank you. And this is not like a little silo kind of thing. So be part of the show. We want to hear your interactions. We want to hear from you because success breeds success. And the only way that we're going to get together is being stronger together. So tell us your opinions. Tell us whenever we ask questions, what are you saying? Not only that, this show is not just about a small group of people. I don't know everybody. So you want to reach out to Marty, reach out to myself, DM us on X, on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever it is. Say, hey, I do this. I would like to be part of the show. Let us know. Don't worry. We take everybody over here because everybody has a little bit to contribute to ensure that we're better educators, because the second that we're better educators, our kids prosper. So we're here in El Paso, had a family wedding, enjoying my old stomping grounds, eating the food capital of the United States, El Paso, not the valley. And those of you that don't know, that's the Rio Grande Valley in McAllen and Corpus Christi. They're not the capital. It is El Paso. And I know some lady that's close to me might differ from that point of view, but El Paso is a food capital. Hey, Dr. Moreno, how are you doing?
Oh my God, I'm back in Houston, Texas. That's one thing for sure. I'm super excited. Josh, it's the last Sunday of 2024. I am super excited that we're going to jumpstart 2025 with some fabulous guests. So I am super excited that we're closing the show with some great people today. But I am in Houston, Texas. I survived all of the tornadoes that happened yesterday and the day before. But yeah, I'm safe. My family is safe. My home is secured. And so thank goodness everything is great for the end of 2024.
Right. And let's be appreciative of that. And I'm glad I was praying for you. And those are the things that we forget. You know, we had that chemical disaster when the railroad car somewhere in Michigan overturned, the fires in Hawaii, remember, destroyed a whole area, the flooding that you've had, the flooding of those tornadoes in North Carolina and Virginia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, our kids are still out there, guys. Those kids are still suffering. Nothing is set.
Yeah.
And so we need to be appreciative. And that's the whole point of today's show. Pretty much the point of all our shows is to encourage us along, because you know what? We're not alone. You choose to be alone. And those of you that are still fighting social media, you're just adding to your loneliness. Because look at this show right now, I'm going to tell you, you're going to hear our guests. They're from all over America. They have an age difference, an experience difference. And you know what bonds us together? The love of children, the love of encouraging them, making them the best version of themselves, and creating the best citizens so that this beautiful country can keep on moving ahead, making sure that we always live up to the standards of becoming that beautiful little city on a hill.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it takes all of us from learning from each other. But you know what? Let's start off with our Chinchilagua moment. Chinchilagua, Kyle Hill, he's in Dover. He's in Delaware. He's like, Josh, what is Chinchilagua? How do you eat that? No, Kyle Hill. No, hey, Mr. Schoolhouse. Chinchilagua is not something you eat. Chinchilagua is a game played by Mexicans. And what we do is that we line up against a wall, against a tree, and we hold on to it. And then you yell, Chinchilagua, y arriba, boy. You yell, like, telling everybody, here I come. And you run and you jump on top of your cousin. And you jump on top of your uncle. And you keep on yelling at that. And you keep on yelling. It's all fun and games. It's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. It's all fun and games until you hear that kid, I broke my finger. You know how families are, right? Especially during this time. Well, the whole point of today's topic is this. building relationships as a professional. Some of you, and we hear this, Dr. Moreno, that we hit a wall professionally. We can't move up the chain. We aspire to more in education. But what are you doing right now to have your name known in a positive way? I always put this out there. Hey, educator, you want to move up to be a special a diagnostician, a librarian, assistant principal, whatever it is, the next with your master's, right? What are people saying about you? Do people even know your name? Do they even know who you are in your campus? In your campus? Because you know that when you go to those PDs at the regional level, you guys talk about your
Mhm.
peers, your
Mhm.
colleagues, all people that do English seventh, eighth grade US history, ninth grade biology. You all sit together from different schools and you
Mhm.
say, oh, and you know, that's where your name comes into play. So is your name even out there? Number two, what if your name is out there? Is it copper? Is it silver? Is it gold? Is it platinum? What are people saying about you?
Yeah.
Not only that, but are you building relationships with your administrators? You cannot be an ankle biter, and I'm just saying this respectfully to all of you. You cannot be hating on an administrator and later on calling for a reference.
Reference.
You can't do that. To
Mhm.
me, you know what? I personally have faced this people that don't like my style, and later on they're like, "Oh, hi, Mr. Toad, hi, Josh. Can I use you for a reference, dude? You hated me, really? You know, you have to build those relationships to professional to make sure that you reach the goal that you have. So I tell you this: do you have a name? What is your brand? Are you using this to brand what you do? Because if you're only stuck in the same hallway, in the same classroom for 5 years, nobody knows you, but you want to move up the chain. And when you go out to the district PDs, are you always complaining? Ah, my administrator. Oh, my department head. Oh, we have to do lesson plans. Oh, what are people going to say about you when you
Mhm.
have them on your committee? They just remember you complaining a lot. Do you think you want to work with someone like that that's always
Yeah.
complaining? Or are you the go-getter, part of all the committee members, all the committees? Are you part of all the district? Because district always asks for members to be part of this district committee.
Mhm.
Is your name in the lips of people that make decisions?
Mhm.
And if it is, what is it worth? Is your name copper, silver, gold, platinum? I don't know what it is. So during this time, I would just want you to think about this on this Chinchilagua moment. What are you doing to get your name out there? And even if you don't like something, don't bark against it. Bring
Yeah.
a solution to it, because then that's not building relations. Especially, trust me, trust me. Education in my state of Texas, I don't know about you in Iowa, I don't know about you in Georgia, but it's a small community where people know people
Yeah.
that will reach out to you 5 years later and say, "Hey, did you used to work with Mari Moreno?" Yeah, oh yeah, I used to work with her. Then what is said next about you? I don't know. What reputation did you build with him? What do you think about that, Dr. Moreno?
You know what? You bring up a fabulous point, Josh, because you're absolutely right. When it comes to branding yourself, that's exactly what you're talking about, is branding yourself and what are you worth. And so I'm so glad that you bring this up because now is the time when we have what we call off time or some a break time. Pick up a book, pick up something, brand yourself in a way or learn something because I'm telling you, principals are always looking for teachers on their campus who can then provide a skill. Hey, AI is so big right now that if you learn something, a new tool or something that you can then share with the rest of your community, the rest of your family there at your campus, your principal will absolutely love you because I'm telling you, principals don't have time to work on AI, but if we can make something easy for other teachers to utilize in their classrooms to help their EB students or their multilingual learners or their special ed, or make Kate a better, a better classroom for them to understand, maybe vocabulary, whatever, all of that is so helpful. But this is the time, and I was looking around to see if I had something close by, and I don't have it. It's actually downstairs because I'm actually reading some AI stuff right now because that's the new thing, and I need to sharpen my tools. But you're right, Josh. How do people talk about you is so important, and if you want to move up, you have to make yourself. in the spotlight. You need people to recognize who you are and what you're worth.
Sure. So I've been gone from El Paso, I think going on 4 or 5 years. I still get calls about people in El Paso. It's not a formal uh, survey reference form, but it's like, hey, how was this person?
Mm-hmm.
So just remember, is that bridge really worth burning? And you don't know when you're going to need that bridge 5 years later. Keep that in the back of your mind as you start 2025. And part of that, hey, if you want some more sage advice, a flashback moment, check out our episode number 1, our very first episode ever, where we had speeches from Mount Olympus, all retired educators, and episode number 4, current educators with over 30 years of experience, because maybe you can hear their words and motivate you. In case you're losing that spark, that little fuego, that little fire, you might need those 2 little words to say, hey, I got this. I got to remember my why. Those people brought it back up. So check out episode 1 and episode 4 on our PGP podcast. But you know what? Adios 2024. Let's bring in our awesome guests to the front from all over the United States. And once I bring everyone on board, I'll be handing it over to Dr. Moreno. Almost there, almost there. Ay, Morga. Here you go. Go for
Hey,
it.
Monica.
I made it.
Go. Go, Dr. Moreno.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this evening. Well, in Houston, Texas, it's evening. I want to start off by kind of helping the audience out there know a little bit about yourself. So why don't we start off by introducing yourself? Give it your background, a brief background on the different roles that you've served while in education. And then which one is your favorite? And we're going to start off with El Profe.
Oh.
Because I love your smile, sir. That's why.
Thank you, thank you. So I am Sherrod Laws, passionately known as El Profe. I have been in education for over a decade, where I have served as a Spanish teacher. I served as the dean of students, an assistant principal, and a principal. And my favorite role, if I had to say anything, would be assistant principal. That was definitely my favorite role.
Okay. Well, cool. And AP in different roles, K through 12.
No, all of my experience in administration is middle school.
Middle school, my favorite. Awesome,
Yes.
awesome. What about you, Jennifer?
Well, hello. My name is Jennifer. I am also in El Paso, Texas. I am now a retiree. I started back in the 80s as a student. Now, careful with my age, everybody. That was when I was a student back in the 80s. That was probably one of the best things that got me motivated to become an educator. I had some amazing teachers. I had an amazing counseling system. I had some great APs, and I decided to follow in their footsteps. So I was first a English language arts teacher back in 79901. That is one of the poorest zip codes in the United States. And I gave my heart and soul to those students and those parents that really just wanted to have a chance to make it upward. Went on to become an assistant principal as well. Honestly, I'm not sure if that was my favorite. That's just because as an assistant principal, we didn't really have job duties. It was everything. And so as I became a principal in middle school, that is definitely one of my favorite roles because I was great at identifying student leadership. So the student leaders really became a part of our faculty and staff. I went on to district level. I was over high schools in El Paso ISD, and I got to go ahead and sit only on social emotional wellness, tying it to academics. So it was one of my favorite things. I retired in 2022, and now I work for Rethink Ed, and we focus on mental health and wellness. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. Oh my goodness. I'm going to poke your brain there on SEL because I love that stuff. Monica, did you hear the question or you want me to repeat it?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, my name is Monica Morga. I work at Bel Air High School, but I've been in the business, education 36 years. I actually used to teach elementary school, 4th grade for 15 years. And then I switched over to high school.
Wow.
In the health science field because I do have a medical degree. So I was able to use that as part of my background to do the health professions. And I
Oh,
am currently the department chair there. And
okay.
so it's a pretty good little thing that I like. A lot of passion.
Awesome. That is so cool. Health profession. So you do like anatomy and physiology and all of that
Yes.
good stuff.
Yes, I do.
Oh man.
Pathophysiology, clinicals, which is my favorite. That's why I'm still in it. I
Yeah.
could retire already, and everybody asks me that, hey, when are you going to retire? But hey, I'm still in it.
Awesome. I know that's a fun job. So awesome. Mr. Schoolhouse.
Hello,
Welcome, sir.
hello everyone. So actually, I'm still in my undergrad right now. I'm substituting right now currently, but my goal is to be a school psychologist. But I've been subbing for about a year, yeah, about 2 years now.
Awesome. Man, do we need them in our school? So awesome. Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Kyle.
Hey, thanks for having me on, everybody. It's good to see you all. Yeah, I'm Kyle Hill. I'm from Delaware, and I have been in education now. This is my 26th year in education. I did 20 years as an elementary school teacher, both in general education and self-contained classrooms with special needs students. And then I went to a district wide position as a resource lead for 5 years, where I serviced 14 schools and basically supported the staff who worked with kids who needed some type of intervention, academic or behavioral. And then this last year, I took a plunge and went to the higher ed level. And I'm now working with pre service teachers and paraeducators and trying to get them ready to head out on their own journeys in the future.
Oh my goodness. Talk about such a wide array of field experience on this panel today. So I'm super excited. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And because this is the Adios 2024 show, I'm sure we're going to have lots and lots of information for our folks out in the audience and how to close this school year. So awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. So we're gonna peel the onion a little bit back, but before we do that, big shout out to Andrea Bittner. She's here, helps out. She's from Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. That's right, Philadelphia. We are. If you don't know Andrea Bittner, you've been hiding a little bit, but she's on fire. She's all over the map. She came to North Dallas to provide some PD for the Jaguars, and also Jefe. Jefe's on the call. Principal Cafela, thank you for being here today. Appreciate you. Thank you for following along. And Dot McKeever Cheever, the super number one fan of the Fantastic Four. Thank you for being here and supporting us like always. Let's go on to question number 2 and peel the onion. La cebolla poquito más. Who and why? Why, Morga? Why did you go into education? Tell the audience who motivated you into that. ¿Por qué, Morga? Come on, Morga.
Tough question. But so I was almost by accident, honestly. So I was working in the laboratory. Like I said, my medical degree is a hematologist. So that's what I used to do. And then they needed teachers, and I called, and they asked me if I spoke Spanish, and they needed bilingual teachers at the time. So again, like an accident. And I said, yeah, I speak Spanish. And so they're like, oh, we need you. I'm like, let's do it. And I was grateful to help because I myself am bilingual, and my background is kind of like that way too. By accident, we came over to the United States, and then I was able to help those students at the elementary level. So I taught second, third, fourth grades, and it was bilingual.
Beautiful.
And that's why I say I did do that for 15 years.
Wow, Morga, I didn't know that, and I've known that lady for a long time.
It's amazing, right?
Right? You always learn about people. You always,
Right.
especially in shows like this. Thank you for sharing, Morga. Kyle, how? ¿Cómo? How did you get started?
It's an interesting story. Before I jump into that, I do also want to give a shout out to Andrea, who I brought her into our local school district as well. So if you don't know Andrea Bittner, you need to. She is renowned for her work with multilingual students and families. She's just exceptional. Good friend of mine, and she's just right up the road in Philly. So I got into education because I was a struggling student. I had some academic challenges. I had some behavioral challenges. And I was lucky enough to have a couple teachers who made a pretty positive impact on me, more than a couple, but definitely two that stick out. And I ended up wanting to become an educator because of it. So my third grade teacher was probably the first teacher that I had met that really spent some time making a positive connection with me, getting to know me. Kindergarten, first and second grade, I got a lot of glassy-eyed looks, and I was more of a mischievous character to those teachers. And the third grade, I felt cared for by Mrs. Lane. And then in high school, I was lucky enough to have Mr. Tubbs, who was the kind of character who would jump off tables and do whatever he needed to do to inspire you and cut you breaks and connect with you. And so I ended up developing my teaching style really around him. So those two people kind of brought me into it. And I wanted to go into education to help all students, but specifically for kids with challenges like myself, which is why I really centered around a lot of work on working with special needs students.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that awesome story. And before we lose any listeners, hey, Kyle, tell them what's the name of your podcast?
Thank you, Josh. Well, the one for educators that I have one for families as well, but one for educators, Recharged Educators.
Check him out. You hear this story and him about in a small grocery store and all you had to find where the ketchup was. That guy knows how to tell a story right there. El Profe.
So for me, it was my kindergarten teacher, Diane Barber. She inspired me. So my mom and my mom, her, and the principal and the special ed department chair at the time sat together at a table and said that I was not going to be able to do everything that a kindergartner does by the time I leave kindergarten. So they were considering putting me in the classroom where I stay in the same classroom all day because I wasn't talking. So I could not talk until I was 5. So my kindergarten teacher said to the principal that he will be able to do everything that a kindergartner is supposed to do by the time he leaves kindergarten. I see something special in him. She said those words, and I remember that. I remember that conversation. And I knew from that point on, I wanted to be what she was, which was a teacher. So I graduated speech therapy all the way. I went to speech therapy all the way up to 4th grade. So I graduated speech therapy in 4th grade. And so that's why I have a very high respect for speech pathologists and speech therapists. But it wasn't until I was in 6th grade, and I'm being honest and candid, I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I didn't know what I wanted to teach, right? So I taught, and something, Spanish just came easily to me. I didn't have to pick up a book, number one. And number two, the teacher was cute, so I paid attention in class. I mean, get it either way I get it, right? Échale ganas. But that was the pathway. And then I went overseas and I saw how in the Dominican Republic, how Haitian-born children would not have access to education, and they were on a quarter day and half day school system. And so I went there. I taught English for a day while I was there, for the month that I was there with my college. And I knew then at that point that I wanted to teach Spanish because I need to, empower success for those students who I teach, and that they realize that there's a world beyond where they live and it's up to them to explore it. So that's kind of been my theme. And that's what made me get into education.
Beautiful. Thank you, El Profe. And all of you out there. This cat right here kind of like slapped me a couple weeks ago because that cat right there is on a weight loss journey. Let me tell you, my man, from a big guy, I'm a fat guy. I looked at this guy and I saw his journey. I'm giving you mad props, brother, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't start carnivore. You right there, this guy has lost tons. 155?
155?
Yes.
Let me give you a Ric Flair. Woo! Right there, bro. And you got you and you know what? And let me tell you why he even again. Remember, this is for 2025, all right? And it's hard for us fat guys to take off our clothes publicly. Yes or no? It's hard.
Yes, it's hard.
Because of this narcissistic society that we live in, that is so easy to drag you down. My man, this cat right here, whoosh, he let it out, baby. He showed the whole world everything from where he started to right now. A eso, mi amigo. Esas son ganas. And my man is on that journey. I'm very proud of you. You're part of the spark that got me to change my eating style, making sure I guarantee the 10,000 steps. So I'm going to give you some flowers right there, my man. Some flowers right there.
Thank
Just
you.
for
I'll
you.
take 'em.
Welcome, Melissa Jones Chudu, as some cat that I know calls her that. Welcome from Oklahoma. Donna Gant, thank you for being here. Again, part of the Fantastic Four family. Jennifer DeGraff, why did you get started?
Well, you guys make it so difficult to piggyback off of your stories because they are so inspirational. But I can definitely connect. You had mentioned in the beginning, Kyle, about special education. I started my career as a paraprofessional in special education, and I was going to school at night because I thought I wanted to be an RN. So originally, I wanted to go into the medical field and become an RN, but because I had a paramedic license, they wanted me in special education first. So as a paraprofessional in special education, I realized that my original was not going to work for me. I'm way too emotional. And so, to become a medical professional, you have to have a good hold on your emotions when people are facing stress factors, traumatic events. And I realized at that time that my motivational factor was in education. So, as a paraprofessional, I realized with the students, our titles don't matter. What matters is how we relate to them. And so when I started to build that rapport with our special education students, I wanted them to realize that their, I don't want to say disability, but what they were identified as for special education should not stop them from becoming what they want to be. And so I went on to become a special education teacher from there because then I realized I needed a higher salary. At the time, we were making about $700 a month. Granted, it was a long time ago. However, it was very motivational for me to continue on the path of education. When I became a special education teacher, that's probably when I realized, okay, now I can actually accomplish more during the ARD. I can rise the goals of those students because they're capable of so much more. And so then I went into, of course, English language arts and reading, became an assistant principal at the high school level. Got a little crazy at that particular moment in time. Went on to become a principal for the middle school. And I'll tell you what, I already said it and I'm going to say it again. Titles don't matter. If I needed to sweep floors, I was sweeping floors. If I needed to go and substitute in a classroom because a teacher was ill, I was substituting in a classroom. And one of the things that I would love for anybody listening to these podcasts to remember is that it's really you that matter, not your title. And so I'm honored to be here because even at the end of this particular session, I want everybody to really look forward to what can happen in 2025 and live in the now.
Thank you, Jen. And again, I know all these individuals, and some of you might not know. I know them very close. That young lady right there is an inspiration. The last time I saw her, first time I met her, she had an astronaut hat, and she had like little things all over her neck. She's a survivor of a tumor in her brain while still being a principal. While still being a principal, she totally, when I think that I'm like, oh, I'm bumming, I really don't think that often that, but when I think I'm bumming, hey, Jen kicked ass doing this. Shake it off. You just look at that and you have to find that inspiration in someone else. That's the purpose of this show and all our shows. Look at someone in front of you, look at their background and say, si se puede. Yes, you can. These are the stories. Look at everyone that just introduced themselves, from a substitute teacher to a 36-year health professional teacher. We're all in the CTE at the college level. We're all in different aspects. So you can find someone to connect with. Just like Central Hill Hicks. He just took over. He's a brand new, thank you for being here, hermano. First year principal. He's going through the struggles of becoming a first year principal. You can reach out to that guy. We're all connected with this thing. Many of you that hate this thing, look at this talent here. And it was all brought together with one text. Yes or no, everybody? I text you and I brought you all together. So if you choose not to be connected and you choose to be alone, that's on you. Mr. Schoolhouse, why did you want to be in education and lead to that awesome goal?
So for me, growing up, I did. There were a lot of people who did not really vision big. There weren't a lot of people that had high aspirations. So it was glorified. If you were bad, that's what made you popular. So I was on the track of not, I wasn't doing too well, right? So I had a teacher that I met at church, and he tutored me in math. Now, mind you, he was tutoring me over the summer, so he wasn't getting paid. We weren't paying him to tutor me. And so at that moment, it really resonated with me like, wow, he's a teacher and he really cares about me. He wants to see me be successful. And that really stuck with me. And I said, man, I want to go into education. I want to go into education. I want to make a difference like that teacher did for me when I was struggling in math. So,
Awesome. That's it. There you go. It's not about the content, it's how that individual connected with Mr. Schoolhouse that brought that. And hey, Mr. Schoolhouse, tell them about your podcast.
oh, yes, you guys can check out the Schoolhouse podcast. It's on all streaming platforms.
Check them out. Seeing education through a different lens. You know what? Morga sees education through 36 years in the health profession. Her lens is that. Does that make sense? Kyle sees it from sped now to college. That's his scope.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Schoolhouse has totally clean eyes. He has not been, the stuff that's in our field. You know what I'm talking about, guys, right? He has not
Yeah.
faced that stuff. So listen to him. His podcasts are awesome and always on point because he's coming across education from a different light. Well, greetings to former cast member and panel member Dr. Edwin Garcia from episode 16 out of New Jersey. We got the whole country here, baby, for Adios 24. Dr. Moreno, take it away.
Awesome, awesome. It's important, you guys, for our audience to understand and build that relationship with kids, right? But for us to understand that, it's also important for the audience to know how were we as students, so that we can then connect that. Because guess what? We were not all great kids, right? I know I think I became a principal because I lived in the principal's office more than I actually stayed in our classroom. So that's kind of like my background, right? I wasn't a very good kid. So let's just kind of tell a little bit before we kind of get to today's topic. Let's help the audience know how were we either as a high school a high school student or a college student. So you can choose what era you want to talk about. And we're going to start off with Kyle.
Yeah, I kind of touched on this earlier. I was not a great student. I wasn't the most behaved student in the world, and like you, I did find myself meeting with some authoritarian figures occasionally to try to give me some guidance. We'll say I struggled with, especially in language arts areas, reading especially, and so that really took hold once I got into middle school and high school. Like the challenges I faced in those specific areas, they really grew. And so I had to I was very fortunate that when I went to college, I kind of figured some things out for myself as far as how my brain worked individually and how some specific strategies I could do to help myself. But I just kind of plodded along, and in some cases maybe a miracle I made it through high school, to be honest with you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing. And how was your first year as a teacher? Did that influence your background as far as how you were as a student, and then now your first year as a teacher?
Yeah, so my first year as a teacher was amazing and challenging all in the same breath, right? Like I was a fifth grade teacher and I had a self-contained classroom with 15 incredible kids in special education programming. And they all had just incredibly diverse backgrounds with plenty of challenges and plenty of strengths. And I was really fortunate to be able to probably in all of my 20 years working at the elementary level, I never connected nearly as strongly as I did with that group of 15. And I think that helped to propel me moving forward, understanding right from year one the importance of building relationships. So I was really fortunate to have just an amazing group of kids. Sure, they had plenty of challenges, but I think with my background, I was able to connect with them maybe a little bit easier than most.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing, Jennifer.
Oh, that's kind of a tough topic for me to talk about. But hey, you know what I always say, you guys gotta be real. Because if we're going to want to have a better 2025 or a better tomorrow, let's go ahead and face the past, right? So I think nowadays it feels like peer pressure has become a very hot topic. But when I was a student, middle school, high school, that was back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, I was middle school, high school, and I was probably the one being bullied. I was always taller than everybody else. I was always trying to get along with people, but I think I tried to overdo it. And so a majority of my peer pressure came from like that, making fun of me, saying things like, well, how did you get so tall? And I feel like that mental health component, for me, my parents at the time, at middle school, high school, they were getting divorced. And so they had separated. So I had at home issues. I had at school issues. I had a lot of, I didn't have anybody reliable to be able to kind of, let's call it my best friend, so to say. And what I realized was that self component had to be number one. So I became self aware. I self-disciplined myself to be able to really overcome all of these challenges that were, facing me. So when people in general were telling me things as a student, 16, 17, 18 years old, I decided that that was going to be the fuel to my fire. And when they told me I couldn't do it, man, I was self-disciplining myself to make sure I could do it. Whether that had to do with sports or academics, it didn't matter. I realized then that even though the odds were stacked against me, I was going to go ahead and prove them wrong. So growing up in that particular component is what made me an educator. I realized that the peer pressure, believe it or not, 90% of our students want to help you. They want to help us. But if we don't ask, they're not going to perform. The 10% of students are going to have that negative peer pressure. They're going to have that negative discipline needed, right? But why aren't we utilizing 90% of our students that want to help? They want to help. And so that's probably what really drove me into education, was really wanting the student voice across all grade levels, not just middle school, high school, although it's probably the most important. From
Yeah.
K all the way to college, we need student voices to impact our decisions. So that's probably a little bit about my background.
Awesome, Jennifer. And how did that help you or support you your first year? How was your first year
So you're talking about my first year teaching?
teaching? Yeah.
Uh, okay, so my first year teaching, it wasn't about academics, it was about relationships. If I
Ah.
wanted them to learn more, I had to start by letting them connect with me more.
Mm.
And so I told stories that really, when we think about it, for example, parents being separated, students might not want to talk about it out loud, but if I tell my story, they're automatically going to trust me now to talk
Mm-hmm.
to me about some of the hardships that they might be facing. So I feel like putting ourselves being a lot more vulnerable is going to allow those students to come inward. So my first year teaching, I was in survival mode. I wasn't worried about, at the time it was called TOS testing, statewide academic testing. No, no, no. I was worried about their mental health, their wellness, their wanting to come into my classroom. And that's probably one of the things that motivated me to continue.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing, Mr. Schoolhouse.
The question is how were you as a student, right?
Yeah, how was it as a student, either in high school or in college? And then I normally follow up with how do you connect what you did or how you were as a student as to your first year teaching?
Okay. So for me as a student, actually, I was bullied a lot, right? I was picked on a lot, very badly. And it actually led me to getting into a lot of fights, a lot of altercations, and it stemmed from just wanting to fit in because again, where I come from and the neighborhood I grew up in, you were celebrated for getting into fights. You were celebrated for disrespecting the teacher. You got bonus points. No one celebrated you if you got all A's. No one celebrated you if you said, "Man, I want to be a lawyer or a doctor." That wasn't celebrated. You were celebrated if you wanted to be an athlete. So these were the things that fell into that trap. And eventually I got to college. Of course, I'm graduating in May, so of course I had to make a 360, in my study habits and things like that to change and be the person that I am today. So
I'm sure that will help you as you transition into your teaching career, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Show another level of empathy and to be able to relate to
Yeah, awesome, awesome. El profe.
So, as a middle school student, I was, I can actually say my middle school experience was good. I did have like a few kids who did pick on me because of my size, but that didn't bother me because my mom was my inspiration, and my town where I lived, back then, like the late '90s, early 2000, a lot of the parents went to the same school that I went to. So my mom actually went to the same middle school and high school that I went to. And so they knew her. And so as soon as they said Laws, oh, you sure Laws son, aren't you? And I said, yes. So you better make sure you behave. Um, so my mom was actually an inspirational part of my life.
Mhm.
And she also made sure that me and my twin sister did our homework. She checked our book bags. She checked our notebooks to make sure that everything was in order. There should not be any torn up pencils. There should not be any ripped up paper. We used to use the notebook paper to make paper claws, and so she saw those paper claws. Um, and but the and when I was in high school, the my mom passed away when I was a freshman in high school, like
Oh, wow.
going back from winter break. So I was on the wrestling team, and the wrestling team showed up to my mom's funeral on the school bus. Right, that really motivated me and inspired me to want to always give back
Mhm.
because those guys they didn't have to come on the bus. The whole team showed up. The wrestling moms brought me clothes to make sure we were ready for the funeral. But my mom's death made me OCD about success. So what I mean about that is um, that was when my perfectionism came into play, and I did not want to fail. So I took like all the honors classes, all the AP classes. I was a nerd, like
Wow.
tutoring kids on the bus, tutoring kids at school. I was that person because I knew at that point I knew I wanted to be an educator. And so I took a lot of college classes in high school so that way I can get in and get out of college as quickly as possible. So that way I can be a teacher as quickly as possible. So I started teaching at 20 years old. I was already getting ready to graduate from college. So I started my first teaching experience was middle school. Uh, middle school.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like I was around age 19, getting ready to turn 20. So those kids were 14 and 15 years old. And so I was 4 or 5 years older than those kids. And
Yeah.
so it was honestly a great experience for me because I always carried myself like an educator. But that all those experiences that I had growing up taught me to and I taught in the same city that I grew up in, and I knew some of those kids from seeing them when they were younger. So for me it was all about making connections as well and connecting
Mhm.
the Spanish language to their reality and their culture and teaching them a culture that's different from their own. So
Mm.
that was my first year of teaching. My purpose really was to inspire and motivate people to go outside of their reality. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much what I've been doing my whole education career.
And you know what? I know your mom is very proud of you. So, kudos to you. So thank you. Thank you so much. And Miss Morga, let's round it out.
Okay, well, I probably was a nerd in school. Probably still am a nerd, medical nerd, I call myself. But I think it was the language barrier that I was telling you about going into bilingual education because I did
Mhm.
have that. I grew up with that language barrier, and well, I didn't speak English. So I had to learn in school. And yes, I was bullied again because I didn't know what they were saying. So
Mm.
and so then I think that's why I said yes to the bilingual, elementary school teaching, which was a big deal for going from nice, laboratory work that I had always wanted to do in hematology, and then leaving that for teaching.
Right. Yeah.
But I think all in all, I could connect, like you said, build relationships because of my background, the same as the kids. And so I took them into the English right away, and it was hard. But I'm gonna tell you, it was tough. My first week, I remember teaching second grade, and I remember throwing up for the whole week.
Wow.
I was so scared because what did I do? Like, what did I just do? I switched from laboratory, my dream, into a teaching position. But you know what? I think through the years it has worked out.
Well, now
And
you're teaching high school and health professions, so it's like the best of both worlds.
yes, it took me the steps that I gained, like, that the experience from elementary really does help in high
Mhm.
school, because I always say that, it's like teaching little elementary kids, just bigger bodies.
Yes, yes,
You know,
absolutely. I'm glad you feel the same way I do. Or absolutely true.
that's how I connected. So, it worked out. And I do teach right now what I used to do in the laboratories. So,
Mhm.
like I said, it just worked out. But it was
Seeing those light bulbs, right? Seeing the kids' light bulbs turn on. That's
right,
amazing.
right. So, it helps. But yes, it's been a long time already in there.
Awesome. And now we can't find bilingual teachers. So, you know what? I mean, you may have been bullied back in the day, but you know what? Now we need more children to value their language and to keep their language, because so
Right,
many of them don't want to use it anymore. And now we are as adults, and we need more bilingual speaking professionals. And so, it's something that we need to value more.
right.
So let's go into the memory banks, guys. And this is I always hear the no, no complaining. We don't we got champions here. No complaining. Now, Mr. Schoolhouse, I'm gonna leave you to the end, okay? Because you need to adjust this question, all right? For your current condition, all right? But position in education. But everybody else, reality, facts. December, a bunch of people retired. Yes, facts. A lot of people want to retire. Man, I just two of you here know that I just spent a couple of nights ago with two of my friends that I worked with side by side as assistant principal, and they're both retired, and I'm still at it. So when you have that kind of situation, you got those voices in your head, correct? Like, is it time for the next chapter? There's an exodus in education, and some people are hesitant of coming into education because of alternative certification, or they see those Facebook moms. Facebook moms. Enough said with that. So my question to you is, I want you to go into your card catalog. Yes, I'm that old. I want you to go into your card catalog, and I want you to think of one experience, Kyle, one experience that solidified you saying, yes, I'm glad I'm an educator. I should be with kids. What one interaction told you, eso, I need to be in this field?
So when you're at it for a while, hopefully you have a lot of those moments. That's what keeps you going along. And I told, shared with a lot of my future educators that I worked with this last semester, one trick, and this I'll get right back to your question in a second, is to take some pictures of kids that you've worked with through the years and keep it in the top drawer of your desk. And you have those moments where you're kind of feeling downtrodden, you pull it out, and those are reminders of the kids that you tried to impact positively. So I would say there was one young man that I taught a long time ago, and now he lives in North Carolina, and he's doing great things as a physical trainer. And he has autism. And at the time we started the year, his parents, the very first meeting was, maybe a week into the year. They wanted to meet with me and talk about things and set things up so he'd have success throughout the year. And they broke down in tears, thinking, we don't know where he's going in life. And I said, well, we're going to figure it out together, right? And it's going to be challenging. We'll figure it out together. And what I learned about that young man was he was amazing. He had an amazing sense of humor. And so this will date myself a bit, but back in those days, a brand new book series was coming out called Captain Underpants, which is not so new anymore. But I loved it. It was demented humor, and I was into it. And I introduced that series to him, knowing that he was a pretty good artist. And so what we would do was gave him a little bit of time at the end of the day on Friday, every Friday. And he would create these books, these little tiny like comic books. And it was he was inspired by Captain Underpants books, and he created his own. and it gave him an opportunity to kind of blossom and grow, and the class loved him. Like, it was the favorite part of the week for everybody. And I would say, he was one example of why I think back through the years and think, maybe we did something right. And it wasn't really me necessarily, is just providing him an opportunity, right? And I think other kids in the classroom learned a lot about themselves through that whole experience as well, about finding your gifts. He had some gifts, and I'm happy to say that young man went on to go to college as a wrestler, and he found other gifts along the way, and now he's doing great things as an adult. And so you kind of you find the strengths in each kid, and that's a key component to helping them open doors down the line, because it's too easy to focus on the things that we all struggle on, and we all have them, right? But we have to remind kids of the amazing things that they have going for them that can unlock doors that will help them in a wide variety of ways.
Love it. El profe.
So I'm going to take it to in my adulthood. So I think a few years ago, I was really going through a hard time, trying to find an upper position, like a assistant principal or dean of students position. And so I put on Facebook one day, just to say a prayer for me. It was unsolicited. It was not unsolicited, but it was undisclosed. I didn't say what it was, but just say a prayer for me. So I had a former student of mine who I taught in high school. I taught him in Spanish 1, and he reached out to me on Facebook, and he said, Profe Laws, I don't know what it is that you're going through, but I just wanted to tell you how much you inspired me. You remember when you brought in your skillet and you did breakfast burritos in Spanish class one day? So I cooked breakfast burritos in my Spanish class because we were talking about food. That was the unit that we were talking about. And then I wanted to, provide the kids a skill, something that they can use if they needed a recipe. And plus, high school kids are always hungry. I'm telling you, now we call them bit bags. They are so hungry. So at this particular time, this student, like I said, he reached out to me. He said, I don't know what you're going through, but you inspired me to go into culinary arts after high school. So that simple Spanish breakfast burrito recipe where they had to tell me the instructions in Spanish, and I was cooking right there in front of them. A lot of kids, tell me now that was the one thing that these kids are over 30 now, and they're saying that's the one thing that they remember the most out of my Spanish class. But that meant a lot to me because that told me that I'm in the right pathway, because I may not see the results right then and there when I'm teaching them, but it always comes full circle after they have graduated or they have gone into adulthood and they have their own children and things like that. So that's just the one experience that told me that, hey, education, you're in the right place.
Eso, hombre. Así me gusta. Morga.
I have two stories to tell you.
No, one, Morga, one.
No, let me tell you why. Remember you were talking about alternative certification? I did it twice.
The first one wasn't good enough, or what?
Well, remember I did elementary and then I switched to high school, so I had to do it twice. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God, that is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not cool.
I was certified.
Because they wanted the money. That's what they wanted.
No. Well, I got certified in K through 8th.
Ah, okay.
And then I had to get recertified for the health science for the career and technical.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I'm telling you, I had to go through it twice.
Crazy.
But anyways, the first story is really cool. I was actually jogging at the park, and I passed this little girl, and she kept turning around looking at me because we were opposites. She was running one way, and she was coming this way, and she kept looking at me. I'm like, what? Why is the little girl keep staring every time we, do the circle? And then she goes, Miss Morga, it's you. And so I said, yes, it's really me. And then she goes, do you remember me? And I'm like, from when? 4th grade. I'm like, oh my gosh. And she goes, yes, remember me? I'm like, well, she goes, my name's Marilyn. And I said, oh yeah, I remember Marilyn Penguin, because that's what I used to call her. So she remembered me, and I said, hey, I'd always wanted to ask you a question. Did I mess you up by taking you into English like the way I did in the 4th grade? Because I I didn't follow the rules. Okay, you're supposed to be doing 50-50. I didn't. I took him right into the English, the Spanish, bilingual. You're gonna be all English now. So that's what I did. And she goes, "No, Miss Morga, you made me a favor. It actually worked in my life, and I'm forever thankful for you for that." But I honestly, that was like a very good realization of what I had done because I really did that. I took him into in 1 year
Mhm.
English. Boom, that's it.
¿Y la otra?
Anyways,
¿Y la otra?
the other story.
Hurry.
Well, the thing is that I run into my students at the hospital, and they another really good thing that I have is good rapport, and then I get to be there at the hospital, take my students to clinicals real quick, and I run into my students, and they're, Miss, I'm 30 already, and I'm a nurse practitioner, and I have 2 kids, and thank you, I remember you. You remember me? And I'm like, no, because I've had so many, but no, they remember me a lot, and there's so many out there that have done, that are in nursing, that are doctors, that are nurse practitioners, that work in the field. I have pictures in my phone every time, and I take a picture with them in the hallways of the hospital, and they that's a really cool one too. That's why I tell you, I had two good stories, don't you think?
Yes, Morga, you're right. Jennifer DeGraff.
Well, I know I had mentioned to you with a background from born and raised military. We all want to start on time, end on time. So I'll be relatively quick. One of the things that I talked about in the very beginning is mental health and wellness. And one of the things that I feel like everybody needs to realize is the value that they have in the lives of kids. Now, whether we're talking about our own children or the children that we're serving, the value that we have in the lives of kids needs to be realized. And so I wanted to share a real quick story because, Josh, I had the honor of presenting to your students many years ago. However, it was only 30 days after that craniotomy. And I'll tell you what, when they gave me that 50% chance, hey, you had to flip a coin, Jen. We don't know if you're going to make it. And I had 3 sons, and I still do have my 3 sons. There were 3 sons, and I needed a motivational factor, and being able to inspire students to realize the impact, even if they're only giving a 5% chance of succeeding in college, a 3% chance of beating something medical like cancer. If they believe it can be done, they will do their very best effort. One of your students from Socorro High School came to talk to me after my motivational speech, and I was thinking to myself, oh no, I hope he's not going to tell me. He was a junior at the time. I hope he's not going to tell me, ma'am, stop talking about that kind of thing. Like, we don't want to hear about it. But he didn't. You know what he said to me? He said to me, I thought for a minute there that I wasn't going to make it to next year. I had these thoughts in my mind that I am of no value, that how am I really going to be? I'm going to drop out. I'm done. I can't succeed anymore. And based on your story, I decided that, you know what? No, I can succeed and I will. 3 years later, he messaged me on Facebook and told me he was in college, he was at EPCC, and it really just made my heart melt because they don't need to remember my name. What I want them to remember is their value. I hope you guys will do the same.
Mr. Schoolhouse. How can you tailor that?
So the question was what student we made a.
What interaction told you, you know what, I'm on the right path?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually a couple years ago I was volunteering at an elementary school, and I remember I went to the principal and I told him to give me his provide me a caseload of students who are the most who are giving them a hard time in school, right? So I mentored a few young men, and it was these were elementary school students actually, and so I would come up there and spend time with them, and the teacher would report to me and tell me, yeah, they're doing much better. And these were the students who were class clowns, so everyone followed their lead. But once the students started to see a change in them, then everybody else started to just follow their lead. So the classroom culture just started to change. So through that mentorship, I said, man, I want to get into education, but I want to like go from like the psychological perspective. So that's why I chose school psychology, because I'm it's a multitude of things. It's not just, you know, encouraging them, but it's also helping them emotionally and from an assessment perspective and et cetera. So
Awesome. That I would not expect anything less from you, Mr. Schoolhouse, especially with that mentoring piece. Awesome. So again, hey, look at this. We're leaving 24 and we're not over. We're not done. But just remember, look at this eclectic group right here. Did y'all hear the stories from what they're doing right now to how they were inspired by children? We're in the best profession, the profession that creates all the other professions. Don't forget that. Solidify your love for what you do, and that will not only change your life, but for sure change our country. Dr. Moreno.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna tell you, Miss Morgan, I'm gonna start with you because it's a pretty long-winded question, but I'm gonna kind of shorten it so you can understand it. So I'm gonna start off with you. I know Christmas just passed, right? And so I want to share some past memories because I know we all love kind of looking back and sharing our great memories that we have with kids and our adulthood. So my question to you, and I'm going to start off with you, Miss Morgan. Um, let's think about two different events. Okay. The first event is, as a child, what was the best gift you ever received? And then transition that as an adult. Share with the audience one of your best Christmas experiences. Okay, so the first one is, as a child, what was the best gift you ever received? And as an
Okay, as a
adult.
child. Okay, so again, I was a science nerd, so I got a set of books to read, and then it came with like models to make, which was not even like a girl's toys. It was like I guess I don't know, like how to make the lunar landing module. That was one, and the shuttle, and it
So you
came with a
had these
set.
little models to make as a
Right,
child?
right. In the fifth grade, I'll never forget. And then that was like the best because every month I would get a new one. And I forgot the
Oh,
name of them. I don't even know what happened to them. That's
okay.
crazy,
And
right?
that sounds pretty technical. I don't think that would be hard for me to put together, but that's just me.
And
As an adult,
an adult, the best present that I still have is from my grandfather. Again, books. He got me a set of, remember, those Reader's Digest where they bind them into hard copies.
hmm
A set, but it's in Spanish. And
really?
I really wished he would have like signed them, like but no, instead he just gave me the set of books with in
How
Spanish, which
how cool is
that's
that?
pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And you still have them?
I still have them.
Wow, you got to keep those because those are gonna be collectibles later.
You're right. Yep.
Mr. Schoolhouse, what about you? Can you think about something that you received as a gift when you were a child?
Yeah, I've been reflecting on that. I think a cell phone. My first cell phone. I That was the best gift. And the next one is the as an adult, right?
Yeah, as an adult, talk about the question is, as an adult, one of the best Christmas experiences. It could be a gift or an experience.
I think experience wise as an adult, spending time with my family is the gift for me. Just enjoying their company, enjoying their time, and just being around family. I think that was the best gift that I've had as an adult.
Okay, okay. Trust me, I lost my mom and my dad now. So during Christmas and holidays, it's really hard because you don't have mom and dad anymore. So we become the moms and the dads now.
Yeah, I lost my mom as well, so I definitely can resonate for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And Profe, how about you?
Well, back in 1994, I was a fourth grade happy kid, and me and my twin sister received our very first video game. It was a Sega Genesis, and it was a Sonic game that came with the Sega Genesis. So we got it from our dad, and so we would always argue over who was going to be Sonic and who was going to be Tails. But it took us forever to beat that game, and we would always argue over it because we had one TV in the house, and my grandma had to watch her stories, So we couldn't play during the stories time. Young and the Restless came on. We couldn't play the video game. We had to wait until after like 7 o'clock, 7:30, Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah,
After Wheel of Fortune
yeah,
went off, we could play for an hour, but that was it. So that was my best gift I received as a kid. And as an adult, honestly, I'm a father of two. Best experience is especially was like last Christmas, I think. Like last Christmas, I received more gifts than I ever received in my life. Like it was a whole lot of gifts with my name on it. But it's just the experience of seeing my kids open up their gifts. I have a daughter who's 26 and my son is 16, but still just watching them open presents. Christmas Day, like last year, was like the best experience I've had as an adult.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's nice to have your kids around you and enjoying Christmas. Awesome. What about you, Kyle?
I guess the gift that sticks out the most from my childhood was also a game system. It was Atari. And
I remember Atari.
you're right. Yeah. We were playing Pac-Man. I remember how happy we were to have my brother and I to have Pac-Man. So we've come a long way in game systems since then, I guess. And then, the gift that I would say it resonates the most for me now. I have three amazing kids. I have twin girls who are in middle school. My son's now getting ready to graduate high school. But when my son was 8, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which is a real game changer. And my kids have a variety of challenges, and that has led me to the work that I do with families as well. But him particularly, he was diagnosed on December 22nd as an 8-year-old, and we spent the next 2 days in the hospital. And the thing that resonates the most for me, and this is really the reason why my son is still today my hero, is that he handled it all in stride. We got out, luckily, on Christmas Eve. We made it home in time. Christmas was great, but he handled it all amazingly well. Most people, I just remember thinking at that time, there were so many adults on social media or, just in general, who were complaining about a wide variety of things. And here my son, we're injecting him with insulin. We're checking his blood sugar, Lord knows how many times a day. And he didn't complain once. And I just remember him as an 8-year-old saying, "It's going to be okay, Dad." And that, I guess that level of perseverance, getting that from my son, has always stuck with me as probably one of the greatest gifts I've gotten at Christmas.
Wow, that is that's hard as a parent. I know. My son had cancer, and so I get it. It's the good thing about it is he overcame. He's in remission now, so I hear you. It's tough as a parent, and they're so resilient. These kids, they're like, it's gonna be okay. My son just broke his arm the other day, and he's like, "Mom, it's okay. Now I'm Iron Man." I was like, "What?" So yeah, I get it. Thank you so much for sharing, Jennifer.
Oh, I get emotional, and you sharing that, Kyle, definitely brings us to
Yeah.
realizing the gifts that we have.
Hmm.
As a kid, though, I know it's going to sound a little crazy, but I don't watch any kind of news anymore. I watch a lot of pets. I love pets. I love cats. I love dogs. I love horses. Anything animally, I love them. I think I was about third grade, fourth grade, up until that particular age. We were not allowed pets. No cats, no dogs, no nothing. I mean, you were lucky if you had a mouse at the time. When I got my first puppy, it became my motivating factor to do all my chores, to make sure that if my dog he was happy to see me no matter what. So he didn't have like those human components where sometimes you're like, oh my goodness, am I in trouble? He loved to see me all the time. So as a kid, getting a pet, his name was Leo. He stayed with me all the way through my middle school, early high school, and he was gone due to old age. So it wasn't anything tragic for me. He was my best friend and helped me through a very difficult time in my life. So it was a dog as a kid. Um, as an adult, recently, I wish they say recently, last year, I decided that I really wanted to spend more time with my current freshman and junior in high school. Both my sons are still in high school, but they are very digitally connected to things like, Xbox or gaming. I got myself a Rhino. It's a Yamaha Rhino. I live on 5 acres outside of town. And so I got it for myself so that every day I could make them ride around with me and I could make them go up a mountainside and leave all digital devices inside the casa. And so that for me has been the adult platform.
Oh my God, that's what I probably need to do is get me something that can get these kids off these gaming tools. Because my
Mandate it.
goodness,
Just mandate it.
it's crazy. But that sounds like a lot of fun.
It is the Yamaha Rhino. Get one.
Yeah, awesome. Josh?
All right, guys. So let's look. We're about to go to 2025. Let's look back real quick to say, "Ahí te veo 24. Ahí te guacho." I want you to tell the audience one great victory you had in 24. One great victory you had, whether professionally, with a student. What was your great victory? And a lesson that you had. You know what? There was a rock in your way. We all had rocks in our way. Doesn't matter what year. We always have those rocks in the way, right? How did you conquer that rock? What was a rock? How did you conquer it? Obviously, let's not go into a lot of detail, but you know what? What was that victory and what was that rock, Morga?
One victory, I believe. This year, there were some changes that were done, like in the second, I want to say the beginning of the second 9 weeks. The classes were still not together, and we were missing a teacher, and they kind of reshuffled everybody. And then I got all of the clinical students. I got all the students, and I was like, well, if I could handle, I could handle 25 when I first started. I can handle another 25. That was like one one hurdle this year. I think that went well, so it was good. It was
What,
good.
what about the obstacle that you conquered?
That was the obstacle, actually. So
All right.
it was a win-win, huh?
Exactly. And if you all don't know, this lady has to go to job sites.
Right.
She has to not only go to the job sites, but she also has to coach those kids to make sure that they're not high school kids, that they're adults at their job sites. And so it takes a lot of time, a lot of connection, and a lot of relationship building with those hospital units. And it's
I did.
crucial that you have the right person to not only juggle this with a kid and the life of a high school to where they're dealing with ill patients. Does that make sense? So for her to take over more than 25 kids, that was a gain and an obstacle. So thank you for sharing that, Morgan. Appreciate you. Mr. Schoolhouse.
Obstacle I had this year was my biology class. Extremely challenging. School has always been hard for me, so getting acclimated to that and figuring out what are some of the different studying skills I need, depending on the way that the test was framed, was very challenging for me, man. Man, that was hard. Uh, I was able to overcome it, of course. One of the lessons I've learned that it's okay to seek help, right? It's okay to be vulnerable and say, I need help, and honestly, if I'm just being transparent, I got caught up in this mindset of, hey, I'm going to be this school psychologist and people are going to be expecting me to know everything. But this class taught me that it doesn't matter what your title is, it doesn't matter who you are. We all need help in some capacity. And I got to the level where I needed help. And it's okay to accept correction so that I can grow and progress and move forward. So that was like the big milestone for me, was overcoming that class, but it also taught me to get vulnerable and take that to another level. If I want to grow and see growth, I have to be vulnerable and seek the help that I need when I need it. Despite how smart I might be, or whatever the case is. So
Thank you for sharing and opening yourself up. Appreciate that. That's crucial that as educators we learn from people's obstacles in life. Kyle Hill, take it away.
Yeah, so I guess my big win was sticking my neck out and going into higher ed, which I never saw that, never really saw that about myself before. I hadn't been an adjunct professor or anything, but I knew that part of the responsibilities of my previous job was working with new staff. and I love that part of my job. So when this opportunity came and people approached me about it, I figured I'd give it a go, and I've loved it. I've been really blessed to have that opportunity. And then I guess the thing that I've had to really conquer the most is grading. Like it is, I feel like an high school English teacher sometimes, the amount of writing that I grade. So that is, I have really had to I had scaled back a lot of the things that I do for my media company this last semester, just because I knew I looked at how I'm going to have to plan things that, plan courses and plan time for grading and still do my most important job as being a dad. And so that definitely took some work, but I'm fortunate to have made it through my first semester.
Thank you for sharing. Jennifer DeGraw.
Hi, you guys, I tell you, I mean, you guys are getting me all emotional about stuff. So I think one of the rocks that I really, probably my whole life needed to come to address was my own tolerance. I was very tolerant of a variety of different things that would happen, both professionally, personally. It didn't matter if somebody needed me to do something, I would say yes, and I would do it, and I would find a way. And I realized that I was burning myself out, to be honest. And I feel like in our field of education, too many times we feel bad saying no. I won't be able to do that. Or, no, you're giving me only a 2 hour notice that you need something done. And so this year in 2024, my focus was a lot on my own self management, my self discipline, and also me being very self aware. And so what I conquered this year was number one, making myself in terms of transparent. I didn't like to tell people, nope, I'm too busy. I won't be able to do that for you. I found a way. And then I ended up not being able to really function to the way that I wanted. And so when I say transparency, another difficult thing that I think a lot of us have in our lives, and we don't want to talk about it, are relationships. There are certain relationships in our life that either it needs to be brought to their attention or they need to be eliminated. And I know that can be a very difficult conversation to have, but I was very proud of myself because all of the ones that I addressed in 2024 decided to go ahead and transpire into like the correct relationship and the way in which we're talking to each other. So I felt like that was the best part was making sure that either I eliminated the relationship or I made sure that they understood my point of view. So that's probably my 2024 dream.
Love it. El ese profe, ¿qué onda?
So 2024 really was, I think I would say 60-40 in terms of negative and positive year for me. So the one thing that I can say is when it comes to educating kids, I always have a knack for educating kids, but I always aspire to go higher than educating kids. So the one project that I always do as I've taught Spanish is a project where a group of students their students would get themselves in a group and they would choose a Spanish speaking country and they would do some research topics based on that country. I provide the topics. And I also provide the education as a topic as well. I want them to research education in that country. So we've done the work of comparing the education in, for example, Chile to the education here in the United States and similarities and differences. But and part of the project that I felt the kids would love the most is when they have to bring in a food dish. So I will give them a simple recipe to a food dish from that country and they would go and prepare it. And so the first thing I heard, this was the hardest group I've had to do that project for because it was a whole bunch of complaining. This food's gonna be nasty. Oh my goodness, right? So, and I'm just telling them, you'll be surprised. Go ahead and make the dish. Just follow the recipe. I don't want to do anything else. Or just do it. And so when it came for presentation day, I was sitting here thinking, okay, these kids aren't going to do this recipe. They're not going to bring this stuff in because all they did was complain, right? But every class that I had, every group brought in the dish, and it's like, okay, they're probably going to complain and they're not going to want to try it. But these kids, they ate the dish, they ate the dishes from the different countries and were like, wow, it was actually a very good project. And it's like, that's the reaction that I get every single time I do it. But this one was significantly harder than the previous ones that I've done. Because like I said, exposing kids to something different takes a great amount of pain. So that was my victory for this, for 2024. But the lesson, the rock that I experienced was I moved from one part of North Carolina to another part of North Carolina, going to open a school in this part of North Carolina. So it didn't pan out, didn't work out for various reasons. And so I had spent a long time in this year applying, interviewing for assistant principalships, dean of students jobs. Like I spent a whole lot of time applying and chasing. So my lesson for the year was because the school I'm at now, this job was a last resort. Honestly, it was a last resort. Somebody told me that they were looking for a Spanish teacher, and I said, okay, I'll apply, but my heart wasn't in it at the beginning because it's not what I wanted to do. So then it was, so the lesson that I had to learn was I never know where I'm going to end up. I need to stop chasing and I need to be humble because the place that I'm at now may be where I need to be because there may be a lesson here that I need to learn that I didn't know. So as soon as I kind of felt like that was my lesson, I took myself out of everything. I said, I'm just going to go here. I'm going to make a difference at this school, and wherever I end up, I end up. So if I'm there, then I'm there for the long haul. But I'm telling you, it's been great at this school. I've made an impact in my short little time there. So I think I am where I'm supposed to be, and so just not chase and be humble. And I see a lot of posts in the principal group, in the assistant principals group, that say, people are talking about, I can't find a job, I'm interviewing and all these things, and people say, well, it's all in God's timing. I truly understand what that means.
Amen. Very true. And thank you, everyone, right there for sharing those thoughts, those experiences. Dr. Moreno.
So, just real quick, I totally get you when you say, kids are always hungry and they didn't want to do this whole uh, activity, right? But let me tell you, the reason they didn't want to cook was because AI wasn't going to do it. See, they had to actually do it. So when you were saying that, I was like, yeah, they didn't want to do it because they couldn't go to
Mhm.
Chat GPT. That's why.
Yeah.
Uh, so my question to you guys is a really simple one, and it's really kind of springboarding into 2025. So my question, and Mr. Schoolhouse, I'm going to start with you, just because you're kind of in a little different situation. Um, but you can talk about your goals for next year, right? So do you prepare for 2025? Like, do you stop and think, like, what am I going to do? Do you have like a little plan? And do you set goals for yourself for 2025?
Yes. So actually today I was reflecting on a few goals. So normally, I like to do a lot of reflecting. I like to express a lot of gratitude to God for all the things that He's done. And I avoid comparing myself uh, to people in terms of preparing for the year 2025 and looking to prosper. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to next year because I feel like I'm moving into a new chapter.
Yeah.
Walking across the stage, graduating. Then, as soon as I finish with that, I'm already in the process of applying to grad school to get into the program. So, a lot is happening for next year. So, a lot of reflecting but excited at the same time to
I'm
see.
super excited for you too. And you know what? Graduation is the best day. I mean, it is the best day when you walk across that stage and get your diploma. And I'm super excited that you're already looking into grad school.
Yeah,
So I know I waited a little while after I graduated myself, between my bachelor's and my master's. So kudos to you that you're going to jump right in there, because it's really hard to restart that whole mindset of practicing your, studying and everything. So kudos to you. And I'm glad you're doing that.
thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Miss Morga, what about you? What are your plans? And do you plan?
I don't know yet. I'm planning for this school year is just pretty much to give the opportunities that I always give my students. Take them to, like Mr. Josh said, about the different places in the different hospitals, because I do have to have a. I would like for them to experience different environments.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know yet. I mean, I'm kind of thinking about retirement, but then I still have the passion, so it's iffy there.
It's so
Now,
sad.
it's not a goal, to retire and end it. No, because I feel I still have something to give.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to reflect on that one too.
Awesome, awesome. And you know what? The good thing is that you have time. You have
Right.
time. So most people sometimes they don't have time and they just have to retire because of for health reasons or whatever. But for you, the good thing is you have time on your hands. So
Right.
that's awesome.
Right.
Mr. El Profe.
So do I plan for the for 2025? Yes, I do. So what am I doing to plan? I am reading. I've read all of Principal Kafele's books for like
All 14 books?
all 14. I've
What?
been reading them all year. So it's like so I have 14. I have all 14 of his books, whether it's on my Kindle or physical copies. And I have read through all of those books because the bottom line is I am determined to be somebody's either assistant principal or dean of students to help drive school culture. And I figure I need to be. I know reading is not the only thing that's going to get me there, but
But
I
it's
just
a good start. And those are some really
right.
darn good
They
books, let
are,
me tell you.
and readers are leaders are readers. That's one thing I've learned. So in the midst of that, interviewing like application season is going to be opening up soon between January and March. So I never know what I qualify for until I apply. The worst thing they can do is tell me thank you for applying, but we've chosen to go in a different direction. So every single opportunity I get in my area to apply for a position, I'm going to apply for it when that time comes. And so I figure, tailoring my resume, making my resume stand out using AI. I've done a lot of that work too. So that's what I've done to prepare for 2025. Also, I wrote a book. And so in 2025, I plan to turn that book into a podcast. So I'm working that out, planning that. And then also the last thing, I have a goal to be 150 pounds lighter by 2026, March of 2026, when I turn 40. I'm going to crush that goal, no doubt, but that's just the goal that I have. And then the also I started doing motivational videos on TikTok. And I plan to continue doing those motivational videos. I get so fired up when I do those, to the point where I've been told that those videos really motivate and inspire people. So I just love to motivate and inspire people any way I can. And while I'm motivating and inspiring other people, I'm also continuing to motivate and inspire myself. So all the videos that I do are twofold. So those are kind of like my plans and ideas for the year. And also just to get into to some in my podcast, getting a hold of some parents, because my book is about middle school survival. That's what it's about. So just want to tap into some middle school families, teachers, or parents who may need some advice or support in helping their children or the teachers to be successful in middle school. So that's pretty much my goal. And my wife is not in the best of health. So that's the reason why I am doing my duty to make sure that I am able to take care of myself so that I can take care of her as well.
Mm.
And so she's getting ready to have a heart procedure in the next couple of days here. And so it's just, me also, all these goals I have are great, but I'm a family man first. So I want to be even
Absolutely.
more of a family man because I was not as much of a family man in 2024 because I've been scrambling and scratching and chasing, and I'm no longer going to chase. So my family is where it is.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. And you know what? Prayers for your family and for your
Thank
wife
you.
for the
Thank you.
procedure because
Appreciate
I
it.
know it's pretty scary. And then the
Mhm.
second thing I wanted to tell you is I know I don't know, I think it's episode 8 where we had the superintendent roundtable had some really good tips on principalship and looking for those questions that you need to do and how do you stand out. So check out that show. Well, let's go to Jennifer.
I was just thinking about goal setting, and I first start with real facts. Josh taught me that. The fact is that only 10% of us are going to actually complete the goals that we set during a new year. So really, we shouldn't think just about New Year goals. We should think about life goals, right? And
Yeah.
so what I decided to do was think about the SMART goal setting. for me, we got to be specific. That's the S, right? In this part. So specifically, I really want the student leadership to expand exponentially in 2025. When I first got started on it, I was like, well, you know what? I don't think we value yet our students and their impact in the daily life on a campus, whether or not they are, let's call them peer advocates. They are there to help other peers. They are telling us the real things that are happening. They used to do it all the time. They would tell me that behind the gym during lunch, this is what's happening. Well, if we don't have our peer leadership teams, then how can we really know everything? So we got to be measurable. Actionable. There's got to be action steps associated with what we want to accomplish. And so even though I feel like if I were to give you a roundabout number, 2024, I probably spoke to about 10,000 students. In 2025, I want to double that number, right? And I want it to be, of course, attainable. If I'm not holding myself accountable and making sure if I say 10 million, that's not really attainable. I really just want to double it. I don't want it to be just 10,000. I want it to be 20,000. And then finally, I really want it to be realistic and time bound. When I think back to every day, there is a life that is lost unexpectedly. And even though we might think to ourselves, well, today's 12/29, I got 2 more days until 2025. You know what? There are some people, they don't see it coming and they might not get tomorrow. So live for today. Do what you really want to accomplish today. And if tomorrow you are blessed with another opportunity, then start all over again. So that's kind of my motto in 2024, 2025.
Wow, Jennifer, that is some really deep stuff. And you know what? You're absolutely right. We don't know. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. So yes, thank you for reminding us about that. And always hug and love your loved ones. And
Amen.
Mr. Kyle, how about round us out, sir?
Yeah, so I love your motto, by the way, Jen. That's words to live by. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
my number one goal is to continue to work on striking a balance between my new job and my most important job, being a dad. So that's anytime you jump into something full tilt, it throws your life balance off a little bit. But it's something that's really important, especially for my wife and I, as we have kids with specific needs. Just important for me to be present. So obviously that's top of the heap. And then I also, one of the things I do every summer is I pull together some amazing people to provide free workshops for educators and parents and community members who work with youth and good people like Josh, who's helped me out in the past. And so I start that process. It takes me about 6 months to put all that together in a virtual summit. So I'm starting that as of the new year. And that's kind of like my big goal heading into the next summer.
Nice.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing. And you know what, being dad is important. So I'm glad that you kept that on the forefront. It's important. Josh?
All right, we're closing this out. But before we close it out, real quick, profe, some advice for those educators out there. Real quick, not War and Peace. All right? I don't want a big thesis.
No,
PhD.
no.
All right? Real quick.
Work smart.
Hold on. And recommend a book or a podcast that you're into that people have probably never heard about. So some quick advice, a book or a podcast people haven't heard. Go.
Work smart and not hard. So what I mean when I say that is just simply think about the reason why you got into education in the first place and let that drive you. And a podcast that I recommend if you aspire to be a leader, I do recommend the AP and New Principles Academy with Principal Kafele. I tune in every Saturday.
Love it. Jen?
I apologize. I mute myself and then I unmute myself. So I have a yearbook in front of me, and the reason that I talk about the yearbook is because I still am the paper pencil person. What I really highly recommend for our educators is really to rethink what we are focused on in a given day. I wanted to read a real quick. I'm a quote reader. I don't do the news anymore unless it's positive news or it's animal news, then I do. But what I wanted to read was this. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. You are a leader. And so that's from John Quincy Adams. I highly recommend you really taking that self motivational factor into account. People will say all the time, well, I don't want to be selfish. Yes, you do. Because if you are doing well, your husband's going to do well, your wife is going to do better, your friends, your colleagues, etc., etc. And the reason that I make that recommendation is because it took a long time for me to really realize it was time to retire, and so I did. So that's kind of my give forward. Please don't forget the value of you and your self care.
Monica Morga.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I think right now I'm mentoring a new teacher because, I always have a new teacher to mentor, but I think I guess I would just tell you, hang in there. It seems tough, but we're all resilient and you can figure it out. And a lot of teaching is difficult. There's things that you have to figure out on your own. I mean, I can show you and all that, but ultimately you're with them. You in your own classroom, and relationships, they're important. So just hang in there. You'll be okay. I think that would be my number one thing for a new teacher.
All right, a book or a book or a podcast people could
Well,
listen.
probably your podcast there.
Political. I love you, Morga.
Andele.
Eso, Kyle.
So my words of wisdom are straight from my first ever faculty meeting from my first principal. Pete Basil is still is amazing human. It just keep the main thing the main thing. In our profession, that's the kids. And so it's easy to get all kinds of things that are happening in education to kind of get you off that path. You just got to keep your focus on the kids and what's best for them. Easier said than done, but it's just really good, valuable advice that I heard a long time ago, and I constantly remind myself of that. Podcast wise, I'm a big fan of the Teach Better Podcast Network because I'm a part of it, but there's about 40 amazing podcasts there. If I have to choose one, my good friend Josh Stamper has an amazing podcast, Aspire to Lead. You can't go wrong with that.
Perfect. Josh will be on in a couple of weeks.
Good man.
Mr.
Good man.
Schoolhouse.
The book that I would recommend is this one, A More Beautiful Question. This book has changed my life. I'm telling you, seriously. I would encourage any educator to read this book, and it applies to education because you can encourage your students to ask questions. Oftentimes, they're afraid to ask questions. That culture is just not encouraged. But if you can have them ask questions, and better yet, uh, challenge them to ask questions, and you teach them how to ask questions. Like the pioneers of the word, they weren't afraid to ask questions. They weren't afraid to challenge the status quo. So I would encourage anyone to read this book. And podcast wise, of course, the Schoolhouse Podcast is jumping. Well, we interview a lot of educators. We interview the principals. I interview educators from all different experiences, and this one for sure. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. All right, we're closing off with a lightning round. And before I go, hey, Shika Houston, part of the Fantastic Four. I know you're still on the call. Shout out right there. 10:30 every Saturday, Facebook Live, part of the Fantastic Four. We're closing lightning round. Don't make me go, you're going too long. All right? No hesitation, no pausing, Morga. All right, here we go. Lightning round. We're going to start off with you, Jen. Here we go. Jen, give advice to a new teacher.
Advice to a new teacher. Let me tell you that survival mode should be number one. That should be your top priority. When I say survival mode, here's the thing. My son, he is a teacher. He is a sped teacher, actually. His first year teaching, he wanted to leave the field. And the reason that he wanted to leave the field is because he wasn't valuing his own wellness. And so what I highly recommend is for all of our new incoming teachers is to remember that number one, relationships matter more than academics. Once you build a relationship, you can target academics. And the reason that I say it all like that is because I know, hey, at the end of the day, you want the kids to want to come into your classroom. So focus on you.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student that inspired you.
Okay, and I actually got it out, so I'm gonna read it really quick. It says, "Hey, Misty Graff, I wanted to check in with you. I wanted you to know that you're a courageous warrior. At the end of the day, when I think about all the things that are in my backpack, I realize that it's not as heavy as yours. You inspired me every day from the time I was in sixth grade all the way until my freshman year in college. Without you, I wouldn't be here. I just wanted you to know that and remind you how awesome you are. A positive state of mind is what I think about when I think I have it hard. The reason that I say that is because you guys don't have to remember my name. That's okay. What I want you to remember is your value. If I get a text message like that and I'm having a hard day, I'm automatically going to rethink how I'm feeling because
Mhm.
somebody else had the awesomeness of sending me that message. So that's the way I'm going to end it.
Send some flowers to an educator that inspires you, Jen.
Whoa. Okay. I'm sorry. Say that one more time. Send some flowers to an
To
educator
an
that
educator that
inspires me.
inspires you.
Okay, honestly, so Mr. Schoolhouse, the reason that you really have a particular feel in my heart right now, Ricky Ramirez, he grew up in what's called the Devil's Triangle. In the Devil's Triangle, it was an area in which there was a lot of bad things happening all around him, and he was not giving good stats to be able to exit. The reason that I wanted to kind of point that out to you is because you overcame the odds even though there were probably a lot of people that said, no, you're not going to make it. You're not going to be able to do it. You did it anyway. And the reason that it inspired me, Mr. Schoolhouse, is because at the end of the day, hey, odds or no odds, go ahead and take it on. So thank you for doing what you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Name one person people should follow. So now, Jen, it's a lightning round, Jen. It's a lightning round. Name
Okay.
one person. Name one person that people should follow on social media.
Kyle Hill.
Oh,
Kyle,
thank you.
name one song, una canción that inspires you.
Uh,
That represents you as a person. I'm sorry. One
okay.
song that embodies you as a person.
Oh my goodness. I would have to say it's because I love songs and now you're telling me I should have been
Una
like writing it all
lightning
down.
round. Una
Okay.
lightning round.
Uh, I'll
Hombre.
be there. I'll be there to
All
help you
right.
survive.
What's your favorite quote?
I read my favorite quote. I already
Okay.
did
All
it.
right. What's your favorite cheat food or sweet?
My sweet food favorite is almond joy.
What's
Mm.
your favorite TV show?
Right at the moment, it's called it's this live show and it's all about either marry me or don't marry me. Come on, help me out, guys. What's the name of that one?
The Bachelor?
No, 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 no. Either marry me or don't marry me. I forget what it's called. Well, anyways, that was the thing. You either marry them or you don't. One way or the other. You're gonna have to do.
Like 90 Day Fiance.
Yeah, like well, it was almost kind of like either we've been together for 5 years. Either you want to be with me forever or you don't.
All right, Jen, how can people reach it and get a hold of that fire right there? Y'all felt that? That's her. She don't stop. How can people reach? How can people get a hold of you? Quick.
Hey, if you look me up on Google, it's one of my favorite things. You look up Jennifer DeGraff on Google, add in KVIA. It'll actually take you to some of the news stories that I've done. It'll take you to some of the inspiring things that I do with student leadership. I also am, hey, really? Google me, you will find me. I love LinkedIn. I love Facebook. I'm not on X. I should be, but I'm not. I don't know. My son still hasn't taught me how to use it. But hey, at any time, you guys just Google my name.
All
You'll see
right.
me.
Central Hicks said it's married at first sight.
You know
Mr.
what? You
School.
see, Mr. Hicks. Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate you trying to.
All right.
Never
Now
heard of it.
I will think. I will remember at 2 a.m.
Lightning round, Mr. Schoolhouse. All
I
right.
got
Here we go. Give some advice to a new teacher.
be your authentic self.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher or student that inspired you.
Um, I don't have that.
Oh, that's fine. Don't worry about it. We understand. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Osei Chapman, man, follow him on Facebook. Very inspirational.
Who is that again?
Osei Chapman.
Yes, gotcha. Exactly. Name one person people should follow on social media besides him.
Name one person people should follow besides him.
Yeah,
I'll go with Principal Kafele.
got it. One song. Name one song that embodies your spirit, you as a person.
Wake Up Everybody by the Blue Notes.
What's your favorite quote?
I got it right here. It says, to question well, you must have the ability to say it doesn't have to be this way.
What's your favorite cheat food or sweet?
Love cookies and cream ice cream.
Perfect. What's your favorite TV show or book?
Favorite TV show? I don't have a favorite TV show.
What about a book?
Beautiful question.
Love it. How can people get a hold of Mr. Schoolhouse?
Hey, you can follow me on Mr. Schoolhouse at on all social media platforms. Just put in Mr. Schoolhouse and you'll find me.
He made it easy for us. That's all his platforms. Perfect. Sherrod, El Profe Loss. Lightning round,
I'm here.
Sherrod. Lightning
I'm
round,
here.
real quick. Give
Got you.
advice to a new teacher.
Work smart and not hard, and remember why you got into education in the first place.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher, student that inspired you.
I got this big card from the students when I left as principal at the school that I was at. And the one note that really popped out to me was, Mr. Laws, you really changed how I feel about our school. I really thought I was going to hate middle school, but you made it so much better for me. Thanks for always being here for us this year and last year. Mr. Laws, with love.
Eso. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Mr. Rodriguez Teal, who was my mentor principal when I was in the school principal program. Thank you for everything you've done, sir. And he's now located in Georgia. He just retired from a school in Georgia in DeKalb. So my flowers go to you, sir.
Perfect. Name one person people should follow on social media.
You should definitely follow MPA Jaguars and Josh Tovar, and you should follow Principal Kafele as well.
Thank you, senor. Name one song, una canción, amigo, that embodies you, your spirit as a person. Una.
My song is Everyday Hustle by Future, Metro Boomin, and Rick Ross.
What is your favorite quote?
My quote, it says, "You are the only one that stops you from winning."
What is your favorite cheat food or sweet? You got to change that one.
No, I got a cheat food though.
All right. All right.
chocolate chip oatmeal cookies.
I feel you. I agree with you. What's your favorite TV show or book?
Family Matters is my favorite TV show. And a book called We Beat the Street by the Three Doctors is my favorite book.
There you go. All right. How can people get a hold of you if they need some help with Spanish, some help with motivation? Hey, how do I want to lose some pounds? How do you get a hold of that chat?
Sherrod L. Laws on Facebook, Profe Laws on Instagram, and Rod Laws 0328 on X.
We all need to learn from Mr. Schoolhouse. We got to change our handles to be universal.
I'm working on it.
Right? I know. I got you, Dada. Kyle Hill. Here we go, compadre. Give some advice to a new teacher.
Try to find a really quality veteran educator who will help you in a non-judgmental way.
Perfect. Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher student that inspired you.
Recently got an email from a student who I helped kind of get over the hurdle of, we all had the class or two in college that maybe wasn't our thing, but we had to get through it. And I just kind of gave her some advice, and she just wanted to let me know she finally passed it after failing it a couple times. She finally got over the hurdle, and she's on her way to becoming an amazing educator in the future.
Send some flowers to a current educator who inspires you.
Yeah, my good friend Lauren Bolden, who wrote Next Level Digital Tools, but I know on a personal level, worked together for a long time, is one of the kindest hearted people I have ever met and will drop anything for everybody. She's the kind of educator we all want to be.
Name one person people should follow on social media.
Phil Januszewski.
He was on the show and he'll be on again in a couple of weeks.
He's the man. If you're not following him, you are missing out.
Exactly. What's one song, una canción that embodies you? Your spirit, Kyle.
The previous months it was I Will Survive, but probably probably the song I usually would stick to is Don't Worry, Be Happy.
All right. What's your favorite quote?
Nelson Mandela. Education's the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
What's your favorite cheat food or sweet?
Food, cheesesteaks all day, every day. And food, probably chocolate donuts.
What's your favorite TV show or book?
Abbott Elementary, and book is Still, and I read it constantly. Teach Like a Pirate, Dave Burgess.
Exactly. How can people get a hold of Mr. Kyle Hill?
At Recharged Family on all the socials and rechargedfamily.com.
Exactly. Morga. Lightning round, Morga. Okay?
Oh, I know.
No pause, no promise. All right, Morga? No thinking.
All right.
Lightning round. Here we go. Ready? Give advice to a new teacher.
Hang in there.
Read a note, an email, a text from a teacher, student that inspired you.
Get it right here. Look it. Check it out.
Ándale, read it.
from Mr. Mottinger. As you know, from years apart, accustomed to end the season with a school year in case your career is down real fast, right? Okay, I'm gonna get to the good part. You are on my short list of good people. I have enjoyed working with you, and we are sort of similar in many ways. We are what other teachers and kids would call old school. Do your job and do it right. And we don't need charts and graphs and data to help kids. We know that all it takes is a little bit of our time and a little understanding. Isn't that
Eso,
great?
ese Wes. The
Yep.
canijo ese Wes.
Where's
Send some
money?
flowers. Send some flowers to a current educator that inspires you.
Gosh, right now, I guess, yeah, it would be him too.
All right. Name one person people should follow on social media.
Well, you, of course.
Some Morga.
You love it, huh?
You're a
Hey, but
foodie. You don't know what else to say, Morga. All right.
you know
We
it.
know each other, right? That thing is, we know each other, right?
Oh my God. Yes, he was my boss.
What's one song? Una canción, Morgan, no más una that is your spirit. ¿Qué eres tú?
No, but it's kind of sad. But I was thinking, yeah, you too. But I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
What's your favorite quote?
Seize the day. Seize the day.
What is your favorite cheat food or sweet?
Hershey's with almonds.
What's your favorite TV show or book?
Blue Bloods. I don't have a book, so I read a lot, but a favorite one, no.
All right. How can people get a hold of the famous Mama of the HP at Bel Air?
Oh, I'm always there. You can email me there at
What is it?
at work, mmorga@yz.net.
Awesome. I'd like to thank the panel. Panel, hold on, don't hang up yet. And thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. It didn't seem like 2 hours, but you know what? Whatever you picked up along the way, I hope it's of value to you in 2025. Because if you see on this call educator out there, think of the decades upon decades of experience that was brought to you, and you didn't have to pay 1 red cent or get a PO. And it's all free. It's all for you because it's one thing. It's about us getting better so that our kids getting better. But it never stops. Next week, we start off 2025 with Martin Silverman as he starts off and shows off his brand new book after 40 years in education. And after that, The Blueprint by Todd Bloomer. If you guys don't know those two guys, you're in a little rock. But it's okay. We understand not everyone is out there on the edusphere. But you know what? Those are, again, free people, free tools, free advice that you can use in 2025. And after that, the next week, it's going to be, again, it's going to be, teacher roundtable. It's going to be a teacher roundtable, but it's going to be an international teacher roundtable. What? Even Mari doesn't know. I don't tell her anything till the day before because I need her to be as surprised as you were today with this knowledge all around the country. Say goodbye to everybody, Pat.
Adios.
Take
Adios.
care.
We'll be seeing you guys next week. Like it and share it. Follow us on YouTube. Share it because that's the only way this free PD goes out to everybody. Peace. Adios. Feliz
Bye.
2020.
Happy New Year.
Adios.
Happy
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Feliz año nuevo.